Bases dropped on a power hour for your PM. Welcome to Afternoon Drive to Soccer's morning show. John, here, you there. Thanks for hanging out with us, as you always do, as we break things down. Crystal Palace and Everton, they're at the break getting ready for the second half, and so we will kind of keep an eye on that. Also, there's things going on in other sports that we'll be kind of keeping an eye on. So if during the power hour you see me kind of tilt my head to the left, you'll know that there's live stuff going on, and we got to talk about it. The beauty of the afternoon drive is that we can kind of look back at the news of the day and figure out where things are. And so we've got updated stories about what's going on with coaching changes, and there were a lot of them today across over in European football. We'll get into those. And it was just, man, it was like bang, bang, bang that they happen. Different leagues, but nevertheless, I think there are 3 coaching changes at the very least that we can get into as a part of our discussion. Also on the board, it is stuff about Open Cup and stuff about press conferences and getting ready for what's going on this upcoming week and all these different kinds of things that are out there to talk about. So what I'm going to do is I'll go over the news of the day and we'll look at it and go over all of our sourcing and all that kind of stuff. If there's anything on your mind, we'll get into that. Like I said, this is a power hour, and we'll be back at it at 9:05 tomorrow morning. And it looks like tomorrow, 9:30 is going to be Glenn Davis, our friend in Houston, because soccer matters. And it'll be good to catch up with Glenn at 9:30. And that will kind of start our previews of getting into Major League Soccer and what we're looking for the upcoming weekend. You've got Pro and the PSRA. They are having spats in public media about what's going on with the current disagreements when it comes to pay for referees. We'll get into that. We've got a lot of other stuff to get into, news of the day, that kind of stuff. But Glenn Davis will start our MLS previews. He'll be on 9:30 tomorrow morning Eastern time. And Lucas Panzica looks like he's going to be joining us to look at Nashville SC, 9:05 on Wednesday morning. Hopefully our buddy Dylan Butler can join us to give us the view of what's going on up in the tri-state. We can catch up about NYC and Red Bulls and anything else on his mind, Eastern Conference and beyond. Then looks like Jason's going to be joining us Thursday morning at 10, because Friday he's going to be flying to Columbus for Atlanta United and Columbus Crew. So Jason will be joining us along with Nico Moreno after his time in Colombia on vacation. So Jason and Nico are going to take up hour number 2 on Thursday. And then Friday, it's our friends at Beyond Goals and anything else that's on your mind as we head into weekend. We've got Weekend Whip Around, patent pending, trademark coming sooner, hopefully rather than later. So that's going to take up the 10 o'clock hour, and we'll get you ready for the weekend. We are efforting another friend of the network to be with us at 10 o'clock on Friday, which would push Weekend Whip Around to 10:30. And then we'd be sprinting to get through by 11:05 as we talk through everything to wrap things up. But we are efforting another member of the family at 10 o'clock on Friday morning, and it'll be very, very cool, hopefully, to catch up with this particular individual as we work our way through. And it is time to rock and roll. So we'll see what's up here. All right. So what we got going on? We got a couple of different coaching things. And actually, to tell you what, I got to do opening kickoff. Hello. This is what happens when you do stuff in the afternoon. Yes, Will. We had a great time. And once again, Will is reminding everybody about Blast Off Battle. And with Blast Off Battle, we were up in Huntsville, Alabama, and can't give enough thanks to our friends at Huntsville City Football Club for being fantastic hosts. It's not every day that you get to talk to a mayor, and it was great to catch up with our friends at Huntsville City Football Club, Jack Collison, Chad Emerson, and the Huntsvillians and our buddy Will here. And we got to do that at Yellowhammer Brewing on Saturday, but we did the matches involving UAH and Huntsville City, and with South Georgia Tormenta, and with Chattanooga FC. So we get to catch up with a lot of the coaches that we know here in this footprint. And so it was with Rod Underwood and with Ian Cameron. And so, yeah, it was a full weekend. But no, we were up there on Friday doing the matches on Friday at Wicks Family Field and Joe Davis Stadium, and did the matches then. We had our remote at Yellowhammer Brewing on Saturday, and then we had the reverse matchups on Sunday afternoon. We all got home about 9:30 last night, and then been a bit of a whirlwind, but no, it was great to go up there to Huntsville, and could not speak any more highly. And just fantastic crowds. With I know the weather was a little cold, and then on Friday it was like almost monsoony by the end of things. But no, it was a great crowd, great event, and thanks for having us. Literally, thanks for having us up there, and it was great to be there. And hoping to make that a part of our normal programming grid. So very, very cool stuff there with our friends at Hunt City, and good to catch up with you, Will, and good to see you, Will, as always, and see how things are evolving up there at Huntsville City Football Club. D. Graham, good afternoon. Good to see you there as well. And other things going on with stuff that we've got. Once again, opening kickoff. I got to do. I'm out of practice. It's in the afternoon. I feel so out of sorts. I swear, I feel so out of sorts. It's like I'm not doing a morning show and I'm doing an afternoon drive show, and it's like all the things that I'm used to doing when we start a show, I have no earthly idea if I'm doing them right. So that's your QR code for opening kickoff, and our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. And for those of you who are watching on our social media, whether it's on our YouTube channel, our Twitch, or on the 280 character app, that's your QR code. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off of your purchase. With our friends at Kickoff Coffee and Kickoff Coffee CO, they in turn take 10% reinvested into youth games and youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and at kickoffcoffeeco.com. Afternoon, Dell. Good to see you there as well. Dell is hanging out with us, and it's great to see everybody. Like I said, I know this is a little different. Like I said, I'm out of sorts. I got in last night, and then this morning had to get up, and I had to go on a bit of a field trip. And for those of you who will be at the home matches at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, you'll see what the field trip was all about sooner rather than later. So when the home matches start, you'll know why. But yeah, had a field trip this morning, had to go do that. And so Maddie Cruz was in charge of catching up with all of our Monday All-Stars. Abe Gordon was a part of the discussion. Then it was Bart Keeler, and I know that Bart had some things to say about the PSRA and Pro. I'm sure that took up most of his conversation with Maddie, maybe a little Prem and Proper, and probably some Taylor Swift. So go back to the network and our friends at Spreaker, and you can listen to those conversations. And then it was, it was very, very interesting news out of Minnesota. And we'll get into that coming up in just a little bit. So opening kickoff, straight previews as we continue to roll forward. All right, so brand number one, brand number two. Okay, here we go. And let me get rid of the afternoon comment. Goodness gracious, I'm out of control. All right, so that is the scarf, and that is our way that we are planning to help out our friends with the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation, the last country here on this planet that is trying to get a national soccer team. And they are in the process of building it. We've got to catch up with our friend Justin Wally. That reminds me, we've got to do that. And then what we do is with our friends there, that's the SDH fundraiser scarf. You can find it on the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation website and through their app. Everything takes you to the store, and you can get the jersey, you can get the bucket hat, and now you can get the scarf, which we are helping them out as a fundraiser because they are trying to have events here in the United States this year, and trying to have one, perhaps maybe even have some friendlies against some other national teams in like October and such. So they're going to be in the four corners of the U.S. It'll be Oklahoma and Arkansas. They'll probably have it in Northwest Arkansas and in Kansas and in the Boot Hill, Missouri. And so they're trying to get that centralized section of the Marshallese population to see what's going on with the Soccer Federation. So we are trying to help raise funds for the Soccer Federation so they can come to the States and speak to the Marshallese that are here and we can completely and totally boost what's going on with the Marshall Islands. So that's the scarf. You can reach out to me specifically. You can DM me. You can email me. You can email the show or DM the show or what have you. They're $32 each. And if it is a local purchase here in the footprint, then our friend Abby will drop them off to you in the Abstermobile. If there's some shipping, it's an extra $5 for shipping, and then we can figure all of that stuff out. So that is the scarf to help out the Marshall Islands, and we are planning on helping them out a lot with our efforts, and hopefully we can make a dent in things and have the Marshall Islands and the Marshallese represented with their own National Soccer Federation and their own national soccer team. So that is the scarf. Once again, you can DM me. You can figure out the plans. You can shoot me an email. Reach out to me on the 280-character app, and we can get it all squared away. But, yeah, that is how we are helping out the Marshall Islands. That is the scarf. It's a summer scarf. And so we are going to be doing all that. So it's that is the next stage right there to help out the Marshall Islands. So pick up the scarf for $32 and help out the Marshall Islands. So very, very cool stuff there. All right. Let's see. Morning, Bam. Yes, I know. For Bam, this is a little different since Bam's in Australia, and it traditionally it's late at night, and then he gets to be a part of things before he goes to bed. Now, when we do an afternoon drive show, Bam's like, "Yeah, good morning." So Bam is wide awake and getting ready for work and hanging out with us here on the PM. Dell, speaking of which, just watched Next Goal Wins about Thomas Rongen and American soccer on Disney Plus. Very, very good. We had Thomas Rongen on to discuss the movie and the project. And so you can go back in our archive on Spreaker and listen to that conversation that we had with Thomas. So very, very cool stuff that we had there. And I'm glad you enjoyed the documentary that was pieced together for in the movie that was pieced together about Next Goal Wins. And there's also a separate documentary that's out there. But yeah, I mean, this is something that we are, keeping an eye on with their projects and all that kind of stuff. So, Marshall Islands, they're further behind than American Samoa. They are further behind than American Samoa. And so they're having to, and there are a lot of other things at play here when it comes to this particular story. And so, keeping an eye on what's going on to the Marshall Islands and their growth and all of the other things that are attached when it comes to being attached to the United States and the U.S. government. So long history attached to the United States, and then now we're trying to help out with soccer and the Soccer Federation. So that's where we are with that. The documentary is out there. I don't know off the top of my head what the name of it is, but yeah, the documentary is out there. Bam's already been at work for 2 hours. So if it's 8:15 in the morning, all right. So yeah, 16 hours ahead. That's right. So Bam is 16 hours ahead, and he's been at work since 6 a.m. Man. All right. That's you're braver than I am. So Bam's at work, and it's the morning shift for Bam. All right. So getting into the news of the day. Like I said, right now it is Crystal Palace and Everton, and they are Monday Night Football for those of us that are attached to the Premier League, goalless in the 56th minute. With Crystal Palace, this morning it was very, very interesting the way that things went down. 10:45 this morning, which, of course, would have made it, and we would have thanked Crystal Palace for doing this during the AM Drive show. They confirmed that Roy Hodgson steps down from his post as first-team manager. Then he said, I understand given recent circumstances, it may be prudent at this time for the club to plan ahead. And therefore, I've taken the decision to step aside so the club can bring forward their plans for a new manager as intended for this summer. And then Steve Parrish has some quotes. And club did confirm that Roy Hodgson was out of the hospital and doing well. And Paddy McCarthy and Ray Lewington are leading the match right now against Everton. So then after that, at 12:39, when the release came out, and this was probably one of the worst kept secrets that was out there, is that Oliver Glasner was confirmed to be the new manager, signed a deal to become the boss until the end of 25-26. Glasner managed Eintracht Frankfurt, winning Europa League in 21-22, first Continental Trophy in more than 40 years. First season in charge there. with the Adler, the Eagles. Also, they went unbeaten in Europe, beating Barcelona at the Camp Nou along the way, and Frankfurt went on to reach a German Cup final, Champions League last 16, and qualified for Europe the following season. He had managed at Reed more than 550 appearances, 2 cups as a player. Then Lusk, second tier to European qualification in 3 seasons. And so Steve Parrish and Oliver Glasner said all the right things. And then, so Oliver Glasner is at the match today. He is there at the match. He is not on the touchline. And imagine that he is going to be taking over on the touchline in short order. But yeah, he's in the building, but not a part of the decision-making processes today. So that's where we are with Oliver Glasner. That was not the only manager interest that happened today. Napoli sacked Walter Mazzarri and brought in Slovakia coach Francesco Calzona. Mazzarri became the second man to be sent packing this season by the Italian champs. He took charge in November after Rudy Garcia was dismissed. Napoli fell to 9th in Serie A ahead of Wednesday's Champions League last 16 clash with Barcelona. Aurelio De Laurentiis had a couple of quotes. Told Sky, it's always painful to sack a friend, but we need to consider that in Naples, you have to give Napoli fans something extra. Calzona glided Slovakia to Euro 24, and so he was an assistant under Sarri. And during Spalletti's first season with the club, the 55-year-old will reportedly keep his job with Slovakia while trying to bring Napoli up the table all at the same time. So Mazzarri out. And that ain't it. That ain't the only one. Dell's on to the other one because Marseille, and this happened late this morning also, Marseille fired Gattuso. Gattuso was in such a bad strait that he basically said he didn't have any answers. It's like, I'm here, I got no answers. And so Marseille was just like, okay, bye. So you have two sackings, one in Italy, one in France, and then I don't know what you want to call Roy Hodgson. I mean, Hodgson, we had kind of anticipated it was, he's there, he's employed, he's not employed, and then it continues. So it was all over the place with Gattuso. And so Gattuso out, Marseille. And as Dell says, Marseille is in 9th. Napoli fires Mazzarri. So Mazzarri is out. And then Roy Hodgson is replaced by Glasner. And like I said, this had been rumored for quite some time. And for the longest time, go back to Thanksgiving. And there was talk about Steve Cooper coming over after he was sacked by Nottingham Forest and Evangelos Marinakis. Then that didn't happen. Then Crystal Palace apparently threw their hands up in the air, and they're like, well, we don't know who we would bring in. And now it's Oliver Glasner. Afternoon, Don Stark. Good to see you. Yes, Will. Sometimes it may be good. Sometimes it may be Malakia. Yeah, that's where we are with Gattuso. And the other coaching interest that we had today, and once again, this is activity inside Major League Soccer. And it's interesting. It is very, very interesting as we kind of scream through all the coaching news of the day. The other one here is in Minnesota. And I mean, it's very, very intriguing. Very, very intriguing. Because apparently Minnesota United is closing in on a deal to name Manchester United assistant Eric Ramsey as the youngest head coach in Major League Soccer. So, in as much as we give all of the grief in the world to Minnesota, and rightfully so, Minnesota looks like they are chasing down Eric Ramsey as their possible new head coach, and highly regarded in circles in England. Assistant coach for the Wales national team for 6 months, in addition to his duties with Manchester United before he stepped away last fall. When he was announced, Wales manager Rob Page called Ramsey, quote, arguably one of the best young coaches in football at this moment in time. Previously worked as a U23 assistant at Chelsea, speaks fluent Spanish. Athletic reported that Blackpool made an advance to hire him as manager, stayed at Manchester. Swansea City apparently also interested in appointing him as a successor to Michael Duff in December. So Eric Ramsey at 31. Like I said, we give Minnesota a lot. We give Minnesota United a lot of grief. Yeah, Dell says he needs to Google Minnesota weather. Well, folks in Minnesota ain't seen Welsh weather either. Just rainier and nastier, not colder. But if this comes to pass, with all of the stuff we've been talking about with Minnesota, you could be bringing in a highly regarded young assistant coach out of the Minnesota United, out of the Manchester United system, and having him be the new head coach possibly for Minnesota United. Never been a head coach. He's been an assistant. This has been his path, being an assistant coach for 8-9 years. He has not been a head coach ever. But Minnesota United sees something, as does their chief soccer officer, Khalid Al-Ahmad. And then, with Ahmad's ties to the English football pyramid, knowing younger coaches is probably part of the dynamic. You're always keeping your head on a swivel, looking out for that new talent. But for someone who is 31, and while, yes, he was chased after by teams in the EFL Championship, the second division in England, a couple of different spots, this is a risky hire. If this is going to pass, if this is coming to pass and they sign Ramsey, a 31-year-old, highly regarded assistant coach in the English theater, coming over to the United States to coach Major League Soccer, his first head coaching gig. And Dell says, wait until the last minute. Season starts for them on Saturday. I know. And that's part of it too. Right now, you are talking about an assistant coach in a system in Manchester United coming over to be a head coach in Major League Soccer. Some or most of the players on that roster are his age. Crystal Palace has scored, by the way. It's now 1-0. And they just scored 23 minutes to go. Looks like it is one of the IUs. Looks like it was a header from one IU to the other. And, shot past Jordan Pickford from about 20. And it goes in. So 1-0 Crystal Palace. Big. This could be a big result for them. This could be a big result for them. It looks like it was Jordan. I think it was Jordan IU. All right. So if we look at Minnesota United, provided I could type, perhaps. I'd love to be able to know what I'm typing. Okay. I didn't leave a space. There. Okay. So Minnesota United right now, 28-man squad. So let's take a peek and see how many of these folks, thank you, Jordan, how many of these folks are either his age or below. 4 players on the roster are older than he is. Michael Boxall, Clint Irwin, Teemu Pukki, Zurich Valentin. Will Trapp and Franco Fragapane are both 31. So if you want to add up those numbers, that's 6 of the 28 on the roster currently. That would be either the same age or older than Eric Ramsey. Robin Lod is 30. Baby Reynoso is 28, and it goes down from there. So 6 of the 28 players on the roster, even with Ramsey, or older than Ramsey. Stylistically, what kind of a coach is he? What does he bring into the table? How does he mesh with the current second substitute teacher? How does all of this stuff come together? That would be one of my first questions. How does this blend? What is his philosophy? What does he bring to the table? And how does it fit with Minnesota United, considering Minnesota United has had an entire training camp already? And they're getting ready to start their season. And we're right on the precipice of having a 31-year-old jump on and be the head coach at Minnesota United. Possibly, probably, maybe, perhaps. And it was both, I think it was both Cesar Luis Merlo and Bogert that had this information. We've got some other transfer news, and a lot of it has to do with USL Championship, as a matter of fact. So, it was one of the other folks that was discussing this, but okay, so it was not Cesar Luis Merlo. I forget where I saw it, but there's player news involving Cesar Luis Merlo. Oh, Fabrizio Romano, maybe. I think that's where it was. I think it was Fabrizio Romano that had the discussion about it. I'm sorry that I'm searching live about things. Yes, it was Fabrizio Romano. Top target as new manager, talks ongoing, progressing well. So that was how Fabrizio Romano described what's going on with Eric Ramsey. Staff coach, set piece coach, according to the quick consultation that I had with Drew Dickinson this morning. So set piece coach, viewed highly, chased after from clubs in the EFL Championship, being chased after by Minnesota United, but you're doing it right on the edge. You're doing it right on the edge of things. So that's where you are. First big move by sporting director Khalid Al-Ahmad, who took over in the winter. Minnesota expected to adopt to a brand of soccer that emphasizes transition, pressing, and youth. And Ramsey turned 32 this week. So technically he's 32 years old, and he's right there with 4 of the 28. Everybody else is 31 or younger. So we had a transitional year when it comes to Eric Ramsey. So if they are going to transition, pressing, and youth. Transition, pressing, and youth. Teemu Pukki, Michael Boxall, Zurich Valentin. I don't know if any of the 3 of those would qualify. Clint Irwin perhaps as a backup in net. Just saying. So we'll see what's up with the larger news of the day. Rolling through what else is going on with Tommy Scoops. The Vegas Lights, speaking of USL Championship, very, very busy. Finalizing a deal to sign Edison Azcona on loan from Messi and Friends. Deal includes a purchase option, 4 caps with the Dominican Republic, 5 appearances with Miami last year. Also, NYCFC is finalizing a deal to sign highly rated Serbian youth international forward Jovan Mijatovic. Signed him earlier today. Said the fee is apparently around 8.6. Direct transfer to NYC, not to Manchester City and then a loan. He's a U22 from Red Star Belgrade. Gianluca Di Marzio was the first one to report that. And so what you've seen here with NYC is they get ready for the season. They sell Tati Castellanos and Gabi Pereira for the total of $25 million. Turn that around for Mijatovic, Ojeda, Fernandez, Bakrar, and Risa. So 8.6, 7.5 is 16, 21, 23, 24. So you end up with 5 players after you've sold 2. Yes, I know that Tati Castellanos was within the chain. So, NYC is getting a lot of movement going on. We mentioned Vegas. They got Ascona, and the group that is owned by Jose Bautista, yes, Mr. Batflip, signed wingback Gosu Samake, was last with DC United. Product of the Ivory Coast League, 11 first-team appearances for the club then. And, like I said, Vegas has been very, very busy. It also looks like they're finalizing a deal to sign fullback Sean Smart. The Purple team has his homegrown rights. He won the NCAA title with Clemson last year. He's 19. So Vegas, very, very busy. 3 quick signings, bang, bang, bang. And you end up with getting folks away from clubs, and you're starting to build what you're looking for. Now, we mentioned Messi and friends with Ascona. Reason we do that is because the on again, off again, on again, off again, off again, on again, I guess is probably the best way to phrase it. It appears that the Federico Redondo deal is back on with Messi and friends. And it looks like the numbers are what we figured. In that 8.5 range, 15% of the pass. And this comes after there was a link of Franco Escobar. Yes, playoff Franco, but this would have been regular season Franco. Franco Escobar from Houston to Messi and friends to help out at the back. That was talked about. I think Cesar Luis Merlo had that one yesterday. But now, after it is officially official that Gregory, with Messi and friends, is going to Botafogo, that's official. That was what we had anticipated, and it had been reported a couple of different places. And the fee that we had been staring at was somewhere in the neighborhood of 2.8. So Gregory finally is out. He is headed out the door, and he is heading to Botafogo. What that does, Dawn Star, that's the $1 million question. We're getting to that in a second. That's the $1 million question. And I mean that seriously in the sense of, or multi-million-dollar question. So last season, Gregory, I can find the salary number. There's Jean Mota. Where's my Gregory number? Campana. Oh, here we go. Gregory last season, base salary is $725, guaranteed compensation $961,250. And so what you're doing is it's the guaranteed number that everyone is referencing, unless we're told otherwise when we're trying to sit here and crunch the numbers. So what you've done is you have taken Gregory, sent him on to Botafogo, and now you take the allocation, the money that is your piece of the action. You've given yourself some room, apparently, under your cap. And then what you've done is you've signed a U22 in Redondo. U22s only count $200,000 towards your cap. If it was a DP, it would count $650,000, and you could pay him whatever you wanted. These are last year's numbers. But if Redondo is a U22, once again, last year that was only $200,000. Michelle Kaufman is reporting that the Redondo deal, the talks are advancing. The deal is expected to be sealed this week. And she also mentions the Ascona deal with that we just talked about, where Ascona is heading to Vegas for a while. So you've got the Federico Redondo movement in. You have Gregory finally leaving. And the number apparently, once again, $8 million, and it is for also 15% of the pass. 4-year contract for the midfielder is what is being reported. Various sources, and once again, because we are in this particular time of the year, once again, look at your sources, look at your sourcing, look at the reliability of them in the past. But the numbers that keep circulating for Redondo are $8 million and 15% of the pass. That's what you're staring at. Now, Redondo signs, as we anticipate, as a U22. The difference between and this is Dawn Star, this is the larger problem. Morning, Harry. Dawn Star's question. Does Miami have any money left? That's Dawn Star's question. That is the billion-dollar question. Where is the money coming from? Yeah, do they have any money left? All right, so let's walk through this as best we can. And we'll get into this with Glenn Davis tomorrow. If we take, and if we think of this, I guess, as zero-based budgeting. But at the same time, since we don't know, we can assume that the cap number, I think the cap number last year was it 6.21, I think, for all of your activity. Now, it was 5.21 or 6.21, I forget. But something and $250,000, either 5 or 6. But what you are doing with the Gregory transaction is that $961,500 in salary and the DP slot off the books. Now, the question is, are you going to take one of your high TAM players, one of the and friends? Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I said, David, we're trying to work through this here. We're workshopping for a moment. Cap space. The cap itself was either 5.21 or 6.21. I can't remember. It's in there somewhere. So that's your total cap. If you take the Gregory DP number, which was $600,000, DPs count $600,000 towards your cap. And remember, you're trying to fit 30 individuals with veteran minimums, younger salaries, younger DPs, that kind of. You're trying to fit all this stuff under your cap. The DPs, as I understand it, only count $600,000 towards your cap space, toward your total cap. You can spend whatever you want on them, salary-wise, but $600,000 is that key figure. So if you move on a DP and bring in a U22, then you've effectively saved $400,000 on your cap number. U22 is only counting 200, and the DP is counting 6. So you bought yourself, and like I said, this is a presumption on my part, since the Redondo deal is not done yet. The transfer fee is rumored to be $8 million, plus Argentinos Juniors keeps 15% of the pass. So if we'll act as this has not happened yet, because it's not officially official. If the Federico Redondo deal goes through, you have created cap space for yourself because you've moved a DP on. And now you can go up to that DP number in your cap space. And if you bring in a U22, you don't eat up all of that cap space that was created by moving on the DP. And like I said, this makes your head hurt. It legitimately does make your head hurt. But as I'm interpreting what's going on, you move on a DP, you bring in a U22. There's still some space there. You've created some wiggle room by sending out a DP and signing a U22. You've created space. That gap that is there, we don't know how much trouble Messi and friends were in leading into the move of Gregory. Everton and Crystal Palace now tied at 84th minute. Going back to the story that was posted in The Athletic about how totally screwed they were. And I'm surprised that The Athletic is still posted, folks, in alphabetical order. So if we go through, once again, let's go back to the Tom Bogert piece from 5 days ago. And this was what Bogert said at the time. Inter Miami needs to come up with more allocation money and or shed salary in order to become roster compliant in time for the season. Sources say the likes of Gregory, which has happened, Jean Mota, DeAndre Yedlin, Robert Taylor, Sergei Krivtsov are available. Gregory, gone. Club needs to make the outgoing moves in order to comply with MLS roster regulations. Additionally, those sources expect the club to move on from Coco Jean either through a transfer, trade, or contract termination. You can use that one-time exemption. Probably you do that with Coco Jean or Quarantine Jean, however you know it. High-ranking sporting executive at another club, they are screwed. Trust me. The Major League Soccer at the time has not announced specific roster rules and regulations for 24, but in 23, salary budget was a base of $5.21 million for the senior roster. Base, because DPs hit the cap at the senior max budget charge, $651,000. Okay, so I was close, but all right, we have our numbers. Last year's salary budget, base of 5.21. Base, designated players hit the cap at the budget charge of $651,000, no matter what they get paid, or less for young DPs, which I think was $200,000. Budget set to rise by a fixed amount laid out in the league CBA with its players. How much, we don't know. The larger issue. We are talking about these things. A senior executive for an MLS franchise can talk to Tom Bogert and say, they're screwed. We don't know how screwed. We don't know to what extent. We don't know how much moving Gregory on has helped them. We don't know how much more wiggling they have to do. We don't know how using a one-time exception on Quarantine Jean will help them. We don't know where they are, which lends us to all of this conversation that we consistently seem to have. LAFC, when they bring in Chiellini and Bale, you wonder how they do that. Prorated, bonus, down the line, don't know. How do you bring in a Gareth Bale to come to Los Angeles? Oh, he wants to play here in LA. How do you bring in a Chiellini? Oh, he wants to play in Los Angeles. It's that simple. No, it's not. But because we don't know the rules of engagement as finely as we do FINELY, as in depth as we do in other leagues, we are forced to have these kinds of conversations. And we end up making fun of situations and salaries and players being brought in. You see all the big names with Messi and friends. It's Alba, Busquets, and Suarez, and Messi. But Messi being a DP, fine. Messi on the cap only hits at $651,000. They pay him $17 million, and his deal's worth $50. That's just the rules of engagement. You can't look at the big salary number. You can pay a DP whatever you want. You can pay him a gazillion dollars. You can pay him 9 office buildings if you want to. He only hit last year at $651,000. You can use GAM and TAM to buy down salaries. Gregory was the one that they were looking at to buy down to turn him into a high TAM salary player, but they've moved him on, so you don't have to worry about that option. Could you do that with someone else? I guess. But we don't know whom because of where you currently are with your salary structure. In 2023, Miami had 10 players over the max budget charge. Messi, Busquets, Gregory. Those were your 3 DPs. So, Gregory's gone. If you don't, to D. Graham's point, did they sign 3 U22s when they brought Messi over, though? We'll go back and look. Like I said, we'll walk through this as best we can. 3 were DPs, Messi, Busquets, Gregory. Joseph and LGP are gone. Salary budget charges include transfer fees paid, so others may need to be bought down as well. An exact number of how much allocation money Miami or any other club needs is not public. Key paragraph here. And the public also doesn't know exactly how much allocation money they had left over from previous years or borrowed ahead from the future. All of this is true. Like I said, we don't know. Like I said, if we go back to that original quote, from the sports executive, that Inter Miami, we'll just say Messi. And Messi and friends are screwed. But the problem is we don't know by how much. We don't know how handicapped Messi and friends were coming into the year because of all of the budget charges. We don't know if they had borrowed against future AM. We don't know where they were salary-wise, where they were structure-wise. There's so much we don't know, and we are left to guess about it, that we have no choice to make fun of their situation and laugh at all of this firepower, all of these names that are there. We're stuck in this situation. And then when you see a Franco Escobar being linked to Messi and friends, how would he fit? Was Escobar separate from the discussion with Redondo? Or is this in addition to Redondo because you cleared out $651,000 under your cap with Gregory? Is it a wash? We don't know. And Will, you are correct. Will is 100% correct. MLS rules are more complicated than the U.S. tax code. That is true right now. And like I said, we'll get into this with Glenn Davis tomorrow. Frankly, add a DP, raise the salary cap, make it 4. I would turn it into the Wild West to a degree and spend what you want because you know that folks are going to spend what they want to spend. You won't have to worry about all these rules. You wouldn't be penalizing folks for having 5 DPs instead of 3, which was just brazen in the first place by Messi and friends when they did it, which got them into trouble. And I think this is their first window, this first series of windows after the punishment has been wiped out, first calendar year after that. So once again, Bogert says it's a long-winded way to say all MLS clubs know Miami's situation and thus aren't exactly bidding heavily against each other for these players despite their proven MLS quality. We've talked about all of those other nations right now, some in Eastern Europe, some in South America, where you can still deal players. The windows are still open. That's why you were able to send Gregory to Botafogo. The window was still open. You can still deal with South American nations. You can still deal with Eastern Europe. And also leagues in Africa as well. Gregory gets moved abroad. You can convert the fee to allocation money. That was big. That's why you want to move him out of country. Sending Ascona to Vegas helps you out in getting that off the books. But in the grander scheme of things, when it comes to converting fees to allocation money, that was the big thing. Gregory transferred, converted the fee to allocation money. That was big. You sign Suarez. You add Gressel. You bring in Nicola Frere on loan. Kamal Miller, Chris McVeigh out. Stefanelli out. Joseph out. LGP done. All of this stuff. And we don't know where they stand. D. Graham, hang on just a second. That's what happens when you have a friggin' space bar on your computer keyboard that sticks. You usually have to bang on it pretty hard to get the space bar to function. So, looking at U22s, you look at, this is an outdated roster. So, Avalos U22, Campana, young DP, Farias injured as a U22, Gomez U22, Rodriguez at U22. So 1, 2, Campana is a young DP. So Avalos, Campana, Farias injured, Gomez, Rodriguez. So like I said, my head hurts. Thought the new rule DP transfer out is no longer converted to GAM. Like I said, I was going, David, I was going off of what Tom Bogert wrote. So, like I said, I was going off of what Tom Bogert wrote in the article from 5 days ago. So, at the end of the day, we are still with too many questions and sadly not enough answers when it comes to where Inter Miami is. And it's a race to get to match number 1. And you wonder, like I said, you figure that the Coco Jean deal, the Quarantine Jean deal, they're going to use the one-time waiver and kick out. Christopher Bell is leading at Daytona. Oh, okay. So it looks like, so what happened with Everton and Crystal Palace, Dell? What did I miss? Was it a 1-1 draw? Shared results? People are clapping? Will's letting us know that Christopher Bell is now leading at Daytona. as we get into that this afternoon as well. So IU scored to make it 1-0. Then Everton came back to tie it up at 1. And the match is over, and you're looking at players giving fans jerseys and things like that. So that's where we are with the Premier League. And Monday Night Football is done. Share the points, 1-1 draw. Okay, so 1-1 draw, Everton and Crystal Palace. So that's where we are with that matchup. That one's done. So Monday Night Football's done. And Everton is out of the relegation zone with a victory. That did not happen. So with the table being what it is right now, Everton is still Everton is out of the relegation zone. Luton Town has a match in hand. Everton is out on goal difference. So that's where we are. Everton, they've drawn 4 of 5. Everton's drawn 4 of 5, and they are now out of the relegation zone on goal difference. Luton Town has lost 2 in a row. They lose 2-1 at Kenilworth Road, and then they got thumped by Sheffield United, and that brought Sheffield United closer. So lap 17 at 200, and Christopher Bell's leading. So that's where we are with the Premier League. So, like I said, David, your comment, like I said, I was just going off of what Tom Bogert wrote. So that's where we are. But once again, we have more questions than answers, and that is the larger point. When it comes to Inter Miami and what is going on and where they stand and who's coming in and what they're doing, all this stuff. So, I know that Bart and Maddie probably had a big discussion about the PSRA and Pro going back and forth. Really looking at that from 30,000 feet, we do know that there is a contingency plan in place when it comes to the officials and what it's looking like. You have a tentative lockout. You have a vote for a tentative CBA, and then they preliminarily agreed to it. At least that's what it was said. It's like, yes, we agree with the terms, and then all of a sudden, the referees union voted against the tentative CBA, and now you've got a lockout before the season kicks off. Effective midnight yesterday. PSRA announced the membership voted to reject it at 95.8%. Messi and friends host RSL Wednesday night. PRSA members voted unanimously to authorize, filed an unfavored labor practice charge with the National Labor Relations Board, alleging Pro engaged in direct dealing by bypassing union leadership, communicating directly with PSRA members. Expired on January 15th, reached a tentative agreement last week. At least the leadership did. Now, if the leadership for both groups, PSRA and Pro, if they had agreed to this tentative agreement last week, and then all of a sudden the PRSA members reject it, what does that say about the leadership? Leadership's like, yeah, we got it. Rank and file vote, and they're like 95.8% said no. So you're staring at what's going on with Mark Geiger. Membership, he says the result of the membership vote is disappointing. Yeah, I would agree. MLS released a statement claiming the CBA would have made Pro members among the highest paid soccer officials in the world. Pro announced overall increases in pay for the first year included 10 to 33% for refs, 75 to 104% for ARs, 15 to 100% for video match officials, increased match fees for both regular season and playoff. Deal also included first/business class air travel for playoffs and MLS Cup throughout the deal. PRSA said that they're committed to promptly returning to the negotiating table. Pro said it remains committed to reaching an agreement. And then it was announced what the actual numbers are for the replacement referees that are coming in. Pro has commitments from 66 officials, according to sources to The Athletic. 26 can be assigned as a center ref or a fourth. 29 can be an AR. Pro GM Mark Geiger is going to be available as a VAR. Ref for 15 years, listed as a FIFA ref for 11. First to ref a World Cup knockout match in 2014. Center refs include 11 options with experience in the top three divisions of Brazil, Turkey, Spain, Italy, Jamaica, Mexico, Poland. 10 are former or current national referees in U.S. soccer, multiple recommended, and work D1 college soccer. 4 of the ARs have professional experience in other countries: Brazil, Cuba, Peru, El Salvador. Pro management who have been certified by IFAB in the past or have worked games at FIFA as VAR will be used in that capacity. Matches hosted by any of MLS's 3 Canadian clubs will be serviced by Canada Soccer. Last lockout was a decade ago. So there is a plan in place. 66 officials who have various degrees in various countries of several divisions can be a part of what's going on with Major League Soccer as they get ready for what's going on. So that will be an underlying story as we go. Other headlines: DC United supporters groups planning a 4-match protest after the club's partnership with Saudi Arabia. They had DC United took a trip to Saudi Arabia to do some training. DC United supporters groups are like, we're boycotting for a while. So you've got that on the table. That is part of the discussion. Lionel Messi again had to come out and discuss what was going on with his absence in Hong Kong because the Hong Kong government said that it was that it was how do we phrase that they were less than pleased. They said it was a snub of massive proportions. Chinese state media, Hong Kong politicians, fans reacting. They want their money back and all that kind of stuff. Hangzhou and Beijing said they will not host Argentina matches scheduled for March. Messi has spoken out, and he said, quote, "I've read and heard many things that have been said after the game in Hong Kong. Wanted to record the video, give you the true version so nobody has to continue reading false stories. Heard people say I didn't want to play for political reasons and many other reasons that are totally untrue. Had that been the case, I wouldn't have even traveled to Japan or visited China, as I have many times since the start of my career. I had a very close and special relationship with China." As he said in the press conference, he had an inflamed adductor, couldn't play in the first game in Saudi Arabia, which is when he felt it. Second match, tried to play for a bit, it got worse. Day before the match in Hong Kong, tried to train. Felt a bit better a few days later, and that's why I played a bit in Japan to prepare fitness-wise for everything to come up because I needed to play, get back up to speed. So, not once again, having to come out and say this is what was going on with an angry outfit in the Hong Kong government. So he had to come out again and talk about things. Have you ever heard of this? So right now, Newcastle and Manchester United, they're talking over Dan Ashworth. And so Dan Ashworth, Manchester United want to hire him to be a higher up in their food chain. Newcastle has put Ashworth on gardening leave. I've never heard of that before. I'd never heard of that until today. Dan Ashworth is on gardening leave. United made an official approach for Ashworth. And so as they try and get the financial package squared away for what they believe that Ashworth is worth to get him from Newcastle, to get him to be a big part of the front office at Manchester United. He's on gardening leave. I've never heard of that before. Darren came out with a statement. By Darren, we mean Darren Eales. Naturally disappointed that Dan has chosen to leave. However, our exciting journey doesn't stop in the process to recruit a new sporting director. Will begin immediately. Thank Dan for his efforts. Wish him and his family well for the future. But he's on gardening leave. I've never heard of that before. Gardening leave. That's a new one. So I guess we all need to be on gardening leave at some point. Is that what we dig? Pardon the pun. We mentioned Everton. Once again, Crystal Palace and Everton, they draw in front of Oliver Glasner. 777 are still trying to convince the Premier League. And like I said, I would recommend going back and looking at our friends at Yosimar Football. Josimar Football. Football. Great investigative stuff that they do. They did a deep dive on 777. If I was the Premier League, I wouldn't touch 777 with your 30-foot pole if you had one in your backyard. Would not. Michael Beale is sacked by Sunderland. You know, Commando, he probably might, because I don't know what else he's going to do if he can't touch any papers or anything. Commando is asking if does Ashworth double as groundskeeper then? Well, he's groundskeeping at Newcastle until they figure out the terms of the deal for him to go to Manchester United. So maybe they just send him out to the training grounds like, here's a pair of clippers, go and trim. Here's a weed whacker, go and get some stuff done. Probably doubles as groundskeeper at Newcastle until he's done, or maybe that's all he does because he can't touch any of the files. Players, no, you can't have anything to do with them. Nope, not happening. Can't do it. So here's a weed whacker. Go out back. Here's some hedge clippers. So if he's doing one thing, Commando, he's on gardening. He's gardening. He's not doing anything involving players or anything. But yeah, we mentioned all the sackings and things. Luke Edwards at the Telegraph. Sunderland parted company with Michael Beale after just 2 months. 2 months. 1-2. Not quite 3. 2. Following a breakdown in relationships behind the scenes, he'd become increasingly vocal in his criticism of Sunderland's squad, particularly the lack of a proven center forward, despite his short time in the job. As with Tony Mowbray before him, 43-year-old appears to have paid the price for voicing his negativity in public. With his job with Sunderland, young owner Kira Louis-Dreyfus, yes, he's related to Julia, once again showing a ruthless streak. Sunderland the fans weren't happy about Beale being hired after they sacked Mowbray. News on Mowbray in a minute. Failed to warm to him at any stage. Beale was even forced to defend his Cockney accent in a press conference last month. Dreary performances and excuse-littered media interviews for the criticisms. 4 wins, 6 defeats in his 12 matches in charge. Interesting that Birmingham City was one of the teams that beat him last week. Reims will still is a preferred target right now. Beale, who was also forced to deny he had refused to shake the hand of Try Hume during the defeat at Birmingham after he had been substituted. 2.5-year contract back in December. And now you're going to have a third manager on the books. 10th in the championship, 4 points adrift of the playoffs. Speaking of Tony Mowbray, forced to step back from the job at Birmingham City after just 1 month. Mowbray's going to focus on recovering from an illness. Undisclosed what it is, but he had a recent health check, and it was an illness that was disclosed. Taking an extended break. Mark Venus, his assistant, is going to take temporary charge. And they may look into the possibility of a short-term appointment with 16 matches remaining. So just thinking about Tony Mowbray and making sure that he is okay. But, yeah, there's a lot of manager talk today. And there's also talk right now, according to our friends at The Guardian, about the guy on gardening duty. guardian on gardening duty, that Manchester United might balk at the £20 million fee for Ashworth. So that might throw another wrench into the whole thing. That might get some stuff, thrown into the mix all over again. Let's see. Other news out there. Let's see. No, I don't want to talk about that. Hit the wrong button. Blanked by your old boss. Looking at stuff in the papers. Daily Mirror, Luis Suarez has revealed Karim Benzema was due to sign for Arsenal before a late change of heart dashed the plan. Mbappe tipped to join Real Madrid when he leaves PSG in the summer, but his entourage, or as it was laid out here on the show, the Momtourage, also met with figures at Manchester City hours before dropping the bombshell that he'd be exiting. Jordan Henderson got handed the captaincy in only his fourth match at Ajax, but suffered injury time heartbreak after being on the cusp of his first win before NEC Nijmegen scored in the 95th minute. Sepp Vandenberg at Liverpool has accepted he might need to move on to get any chance of playing time. Idrissa Gueye has revealed he continued to watch Everton games, often on the phone alongside Kylian Mbappe during his time at PSG. City Football Group has announced a football collaboration agreement with Başakşehir. And Dan Ashworth could be prevented from taking up a role at Manchester United until 2026, unless the £20 million compensation fee is agreed to. Avoiding the 3 and the 4 letter paper, as we always do. Mason Holgate. We didn't get the chance to talk about this. Mason Holgate said to be fined by his team after he got the red card in the 13th minute on the weekend. Everton boss Sean Dyche revealed he was in a bar having a beer with a mate when he received a message from Kevin Thelwell about half an hour before the news of the club's 10-point deduction. It's never the place you really want to. Kyle Walker in the Express revealed Pep Guardiola did not mince his words with the squad after they trailed Chelsea at the half, nor should he have been. Manchester United's interest in Bologna striker Joshua Zirkzee has reportedly diminished, but he could still play in the league next summer. Over at the Daily Record, I know this is a topic close to Jarrett's heart. Chris Sutton put the blame for Celtic's descent toward crisis at Brendan Rodgers' feet. And records anyone who doesn't understand where fans are coming from simply doesn't get the Scottish game. So, yeah, I mean, now that Rangers have surpassed them in the standings, yeah, no doubt about it. We'll keep an eye on that. So today's gossip, once again, before we go, and we'll get into all of these other topics tomorrow. We'll get into the where we are the rest of the day tomorrow. Remember, tomorrow it is Glenn Davis live at 9:30 in the morning, joining us from Houston. Then we have the doubleheader from Chambly, from North DeKalb Stadium. Chambly is taking on, it is Stars Mills girls and Chambly's boys are taking on Pope. So that's the doubleheader at 6 and 8 tomorrow. And Jason will be hosting Atlanta Soccer tonight from North DeKalb Stadium, starting at 10 o'clock. Maddie and I will have the boys game at 8. Jason will do the girls match at 6 with one of the top teams in the nation, really, and Soleil Washington will be part of the discussion. Let's see. Chelsea monitoring. Speaking of Chelsea, Dawn Star, Chelsea monitoring Harry Kane's situation at Bayern amid the reports that he is not completely happy. Liverpool hoping to lure Xabi Alonso and sporting director Simon Rolfs to replace Jurgen Klopp and Jors Schmatke. Tottenham planning a move in the summer for Everton midfielder James Garner. Arsenal scouted Red Bull Salzburg's 19-year-old midfielder Oscar Gluck on Saturday. Bayern Munich manager Thomas Tuchel will not be sacked despite suffering a third defeat in 9 days against Bochum last Sunday. Barcelona president Joan Laporte asked for more scouting reports on Roberto De Zerbi as he considers approaching him to succeed Xavi at the end of the season. Carlo Ancelotti has spoken to Luka Modric, whose contract runs out in the summer, about his lack of playing time this season. Keep an eye on Inter Miami and Messi and friends. He could be the next one. And Birmingham City's defender Kevin Long close to completing a move to Toronto FC, according to the Birmingham Mail. So that's your, let's see. Commando, Hearts are in third, so win there for you. And then Don Star, Pochettino and Kane reunited. That'd be cool. Where Chelsea's concerned, Don Star, you know that right now Bowley Clear, like, they want to spend a boatload of money, and they will spend it wherever they can. And they will make a point to see if they can get all the toys, especially as they want to make all of the new arrangements at Stamford Bridge. Make the new Stamford Bridge, the bigger one, the shinier one. You know, Bowley Clear Lake will do that. So they'll keep an eye on stuff. Obviously, keep an eye on PSRA and Pro. And really, both sides just kind of need to get it done, because all the posturing that's going on right now in social media isn't doing anybody any good, and it's turning those of us who are looking at the two of them on social media, turning us off from both. So they both need to get to the table, get this done, and figure it out. Yes, Major League Soccer has a plan, or the PSRA has a plan. They've got the officials online that we talked about. But we'll see where it goes. So keep an eye on the officials. Keep an eye on the Redondo deal with Messi and friends. Plan is $8 million plus 15% of the pass. Keep an eye on Franco Escobar, because remember, Redondo was on, then it was off. Now it's back on. Keep an eye on Franco Escobar, possibly going to Messi and friends, veteran minimum or something like that. And we'll see where it goes. Like I said, we'll talk to Glenn Davis about all of this tomorrow, 9:05 in the morning, and we will get you ready for your Tuesday night throwdown on the SDH Network with Chambly High School hosting at North DeKalb Stadium against Stars Mill and Pope. Just leaving the pub with ropes after a dismal draw. We'll talk about that in the morning and everything else. Tom, thanks for dropping in right at the end of it. And we'll do it again in the morning for everybody. Thanks to Maddie, by the way, for catching up with our Monday All-Stars. The stuff with Abe Gordon is up on the app. And the stuff with Bart is up on the app, where Bart gives his take on everything going on, whether it's national team, because we got competitions coming up this weekend, or I'm sure with PSRA and Pro. So Bart said the only way that he would be a part of what's going on is if they bought him a new uniform. Because if he just dusted off the one he currently has, I don't think he'd be happy with it. So we'll see what happens there. Back at it again, 9:05 in the morning. Enjoy what is left of the Daytona 500, 157 laps to go. And Chelsea and Crystal Palace got the draw. So I figured we'd catch up here. Great to be back here in Office HD. Thanks to our friends at Huntsville City right there for a fantastic week with a blast-off battle. And we'll be back at it again 9:05 tomorrow morning. So for everybody here, thanks for hanging out for another round of soccer's morning show in the afternoon. And we'll talk about stuff. That's the official term. We'll do that again in the morning, and we will we'll try to conquer all the world's problems all at once. Glenn Davis coming on at 9:30. And we will rock and roll for the rest of the day. So for everybody here, to all of you, thanks for hanging out with us in the afternoon. That's SDH. We'll be back at it again. And you're having me do math. Let's see. So that 15 hours and 40 minutes. And since it's the end of the show, Mucha Platiel, play it safe. That means I get to do this. We'll do it again tomorrow.